Hey everybody, welcome to the Board of Damocles. I'm your host, Jim Buchanan, and tonight I'm going to talk about Ark Nova, which is becoming one of my favorite games. It is awesome. I love it. I'm going to go ahead and give that away in the review right now. No need to spoil that one. If you are coming to find somebody who really dislikes Ark Nova, go somewhere else, because that's not me. This is a wonderful game by Matthias Wigge, who is, I don't think has designed anything else, but I got to tell you, as soon as that cover showed up, I was like super interested. This is a gorgeous, gorgeous box cover. I love it. But I played this at BGG last fall, right after it came out at Essen. Was dying to get my hands on it. I had pre-ordered it before I played it because I knew this was going to be a game for me. I really, really was excited about this. And as soon as it came in, I got the Capstone Games Edition. I didn't pay the extra to get the German copy and have it muled over. But I did get the Capstone Games edition in February, and I've played it a lot since. One of the things I want to highlight tonight is a little bit about the gameplay and that kind of thing, what I really like about it, give you a good review of it, but at the same time, I want to talk a little bit about the solo play, because I think, for me, I like solo. That is absolutely one of the best things about this game. I think the solo experience in this game is wonderful, and I think let's dig into that one, okay? So before we do, let's talk a little bit about what you get in the box, and just a little bit more about kind of the things that you're going to see and how the game goes. Okay? All right, let's take a look. Okay, well, here is my box, right? So rules. Okay, great. This wonderful icon overview that you see here, this is really fantastic. It gives you a good explanation of what each of the things does as far as what you're going to see. Any sort of icon you see in the game, you've got an explanation here. And it really does a very good job. I like this quite a bit. Gets used a lot. The other thing I really like, and I like it when games do this, Mindclash does this a lot, is they will produce either some sort of a glossary, but really the thing is it'll have, hey, these breeding program cards, this is what they do, and they give you the number because each of the cards has a number on it. Sometimes they're really small, but if you want to know what card 221 does, every time you gain the placement bonus of a border space in your zoo, you gain an additional free placement bonus of your choice. And since that may or may not mean anything to you at this point, well, hey, we'll get into that. Okay, so, but either way, they give you all of that. I feel like this is really, really well done. Kind of jumping back a little bit I'll jump back to the rule book in a second, actually. Let me talk through these. These are the Ark Nova starting decks. I think this was excellent. When we played at BGG the first time, I gotta say, we used this, and this is what they asked everybody to set it back up as. With player 1, player 2, 3, and 4, with those cards and this base conservation project in play, and on your turn you did this thing, on your second turn you did this thing, the third you did this, fourth you did this, and it gave you, if you paid attention to what everyone else did because they read it out loud, it gave you an excellent overview of the game. Now, I think we played this and then we kept going when we played. I think the second time we did it, we started with this because we had some new players and then said, okay, you get a feel for what you have to do on your turn. People said, yep, okay, let's mix them back up and let's start new. That was big. First time I played in the game night, I kind of went through, did sort of the same thing, and that has worked really well. Let's dive into the rulebook real quick. I think the rulebook is laid out extremely well. It's got good pictures. It's got really great explanations. The setup is really good. Kind of going through again, really well done. Telling you, highlighting the things like what a partner zoo is, a university, and bolding those items. That's really great. Breaking out a piece of the break track and that kind of thing so that you see all of those. Explaining what each one does, the cards action, and then go to the advanced cards action, the upgraded one, so the 1 and the 2. that really, I mean, I gotta tell you, cards, build, animals, all of that, really a lot of text, a lot of words, but it's a good read. It is really, really well done. I gotta say, I gotta give credit to the folks that worked on this rule book. They did such a phenomenal job on this. I mean, they really did. Editing and everything else, it just, yeah, this was super well done. So kudos to them. All right, so let's get into kind of play and all of that here. So, they give you these bags. I stick it in there. I put 25 coins in there. I put the cards in there. My cards, as you can see, are sleeved. I probably wouldn't do that, except that it's a lot of cards, and I like the game so much I want to play it a lot, and I've played it quite a bit, so I really do enjoy it. But that's kind of how I do all of those. Black, yellow, red, and blue are your colors. This is this particular thing is for the this is for the solo mode, so you've got that. It is. I'll get into that one in a second, and then we'll talk about what some of these other things do here in a little bit. But I think the first thing is let's talk about the different cards and what they do, kind of how the basic mechanic of the game plays. I'll try not to get too bogged down into what each card does, because I think, well, it's important, but hey, there you go. So, all right, let's move this one out of the way real quick, and we'll do that. Okay, so here we've got the player board. We'll run through kind of what each of these do. This is obviously not set up. I don't have any of the cubes in these spaces, but this is the basic one. This is the generic map, if you will. This is map A. This is the starter. There's map A, there's map 0, and then they've got some others to choose from, I think on up to 7. So there's a lot of variability in what you start with or how your map behaves for you throughout the game. So kind of starting with this one, let's start with animals, and let's kind of start with this section down here. If you've played, if you've played Civilization: A New Dawn, you've played a similar mechanic to what you're going to see down here, where this number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up here is indicating the strength value of each of the cards that you've got. Again, we've got animals. We're going to start with that one. This is always where you start the game. Animal starts in position 1. In position 1, you cannot play an animal, right? That's what it's telling you here, right there at that point. It's play animal cards from your hand. In position 1, you can't play any. In 2, 3, and 4, you can play 1 animal, and in position 5, you'll play 2 animals. So what happens is when you play a card, let's go ahead and stick some more out here, just like this in the positions. When you play a card, let's say wouldn't play animals there, but let's say I'm going to play association here in the 3. I pull it down, I perform the actions, and then it slides over just like that. It goes to the 1, everything else slides up. And now everything, animals becomes a 2, sponsors becomes a 3, build and cards in this case would stay in their respective 4 and 5 positions. So really a pretty simple mechanic, but it's really pretty great, especially when you consider that you can upgrade these cards. There's opportunities, places like this where you see this icon with a card and a 2 and the flip over. So here and here, you'll see that on your board, the second position of the university and the second position of the partner zoo. And that means that you're going to flip one of these 5 cards over. In this case, I flipped animals over. When I do that, you'll notice that in position 1, now you can play 1 animal. In 2, you can play 1. In 3, you can play 2 animals. 4, you can play 2 animals. And in 5, you get to play 2 animals, but you also get to move up 1 in the reputation track. And that's on the main board. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. But that's how animals works. In the upgraded, there's an additional thing that you can do that's incredibly powerful, and that allows you to play animals from the main strip out there. There are 6 cards that will be showing during the game, and you have a reputation track, like I mentioned. As you move up that reputation track, it unlocks your ability to, if you have this upgraded, to choose an animal card from somewhere in that range, and you can play it directly into your zoo. Now you have an extra cost you have to pay for that based on the position it's in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but it's really pretty powerful. It's great, and you can do that with other cards as well. So let's get to some of the other cards and talk about those. Again, that's animals. So the next one I want to talk about, it's fairly easy. Let's talk about cards. Okay, in the cards action, as you can see, there's a break 2, and it's got a little coffee cup right here. That's telling you to move that coffee cup down 2. It's an interesting mechanic that we'll see on the board here in a little bit too. I'll show you some of those things, but that is really what speeds up the round, if you will, and kind of speeds you up into the point where you're getting income again. So break 2, you move closer to that break where everybody gets to take a break and they get income. That's pretty awesome. So that's the first thing you do, and then you draw cards from the deck. All right, now, or snap, and I'll talk about that in a second too, but drawing cards from the deck means that, okay, there's a huge deck at the end of those 6 cards that I talked about earlier. In the 1 position, if the card, when you choose to play it, is in the 1 position, you would draw 1 and discard 1. If it's in the 2 position, you would draw 1 and discard none. If it's in the 3 position, 2 and 1. If it's in the 4th position, you would draw 2 and discard none. If it's in the 5th position, you have a choice. You can either draw 3 and discard 1, or you can snap. Okay, so snap is all of those cards in those 6 positions laid out, irrespective of your reputation, you can draw 1. Okay, so that's important because the reputation track is what lets you choose when you're not snapping when you upgrade the card. So when you upgrade the card's action, you flip this one over, you still break 2, but you get to draw cards within your reputation range. There's no additional cost for drawing them. You're putting them in their hand. You're not playing them directly to your zoo. But when you draw them, you can either draw them from the deck or from that space. So if you're drawing 3 cards in position 4 and discarding 1, you're going to draw 3 cards, a combination of 3 cards. You do not replace as you draw, but you can draw those cards from the middle there. Let's say your reputation has you in the 3rd position. You can draw the 3rd card, the 2nd card, or the 1st card. Or you can draw from the top of the deck. Or you can do a combination of those things for those 3 cards if you were in position 4. And then you would discard 1 card. Not necessarily one of the cards you just drew. You could discard a different card from your hand because it may change up your strategy as you're going on. But notice when you upgrade, you can start snapping in position 3, 4, and 5. It does boost the number of cards you can draw on the 5. It's 4 and discard 1. So there's a way to churn through some cards here if you've got that, which is great. So, all right, so that's animals and cards we've talked about. The next one let's talk about is build. Build is in the regular side, on side 1 here, so the blue side, if you will. It allows you to build 1 building with a maximum size of X. That X is equal to whatever position it's in. So if it's a 1, you can build a size 1 enclosure, or 2 or 3 or 4. Again, we'll talk about what those are, but those enclosures are where you put your animals when you use them, or when you put them into your zoo. So that building maximum size of X, in this case, let's say I played it, I could build them a maximum size of 4. I could build a 3, 2, or 1 as well. And I pay 2 per space that it covers. So if I build a 1 space, I'd pay 2. If I built a 3 space, I'd pay 6. So pretty simple, easy math. On this side, when you have not upgraded, the buildings that are available to you are the kiosk, the pavilion, the standard enclosures, and the petting zoo. All right, so the important thing about that is the kiosk is this symbol here that will, and well, you see it right there. There's a kiosk. There's also a pavilion, which is really tiny, but right there. I'll have some over here in a minute. But the pavilion adds to the attraction or the appeal of your zoo, which are kind of the tickets that go around the outside of the board. So the standard enclosures are the size 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then the petting zoo is one that takes up 3 spaces, but allows you to put petting zoo animals in it. So when you upgrade the build action, you can build 1 or more different buildings of a maximum total size of X. And this is something you see often you'll see in the other two cards, sponsors and association, is this one or more thing. This is super important. Also, these cards become very powerful because of that. And you may not initially think, oh, I want to do that or I don't want to do that, but I'm telling you, take a look. One of the interesting things about this game is you are never going to upgrade all your cards. You may not get all of your association workers out. We'll talk about that in a minute. So, okay. Build one or more different buildings with a maximum total size of X. So you could build a size 1 enclosure. Let's say I'm here still in that 4. I could build a size 1 enclosure and a size 3. Or a 1, a 2, and a kiosk. Those are all different buildings. Or I could build a kiosk, a pavilion, and a size 1 enclosure and have one left over that I don't use. The other thing that this also does is it allows you to build a large bird aviary and a reptile house. And when we're looking at the animal cards, you'll see on some of the birds, on the reptiles, you'll see a symbol to the side that is the same size, where here you've got a 5-space reptile house and you've got a 5-space large bird aviary. And it will tell you that you can put that animal in one of those, and it'll tell you how many spaces it takes up. So you're given a whole bunch of cubes here, and you'll have some free cubes. You'll have cubes filling up these spaces over here, but you'll have some free cubes, and you'll put that on there saying, hey, I have one of those animals in there. Or if it takes up 2 spaces, it takes up 2 in that reptile house, for instance. You've got a big crocodile and you put it in there. It takes up 2 spaces maybe. So that still leaves you 3 spaces, and you've paid 10 to put that down, and you can put multiple animals in it. That's where these large bird aviary, these reptile houses, that's where they really come in handy. And some of them take up 0 spaces in that reptile house or the bird aviary because they're smaller. And that's pretty great. So that is building. So next, let's talk about sponsors, and then we'll talk about the association, and I'll bring out the association track. So sponsors is play 1 sponsor card with a maximum level of X. If you're looking at a sponsor card, let me see if I can grab one here. Perfect. So if you're looking at a sponsor card, looks like this, you'll have a value in the top left corner. In this one, the native seabirds, there's a requirement here on the left side, gives you a bird tag, but on the left side, you've got a maximum of 25 appeal in your zoo when you play this. And it gives you some things that happen instantly against that yellow background with a lightning bolt symbol. Tells you that's an instant when you play it, that you get that. And then to the right there, this brown. The brown is always in-game scoring. So another thing that this game does incredibly well, it sticks to its color scheme remarkably well. The blue bordered or blue banded cards, those are all sponsors. The green cards are all association conservation project cards. The yellow is instant. The pink is all done for income, or the red here telling you that this has to be upgraded in order to be able to do it. It's really, really well done. And brown in-game scoring is just, you can identify it. The cards for in-game scoring, you get a couple of secret objective cards, they're brown. It's well done. I like that quite a bit. It gives you just kind of that extra mental thing that you need. Okay, so talking a little bit more about this. So sponsors, again, you can do that. Now, there's another choice you've got here too. You can break X, so whatever it's in this case, say it's in a 3, I could break 3, which means I'd move that coffee cup down 3 spaces. When I do that, I get 3 coins. But if I have it upgraded, that becomes break X and gain 2 times X. So I would gain 6 coins. Now, this says play 1 or more sponsor cards, similar to build, remember, 1 or more sponsor cards with a maximum total level of X plus 1 from your hand or from within reputation range with additional costs. So again, you can play out on that reputation track. If you've got other cards that may be in there, other sponsor cards that you want to play, again, a maximum total level. So if I had this and it was in a 3, I wouldn't be able to necessarily play this 5 card. But let's just say this was a 2. Then I'd be able to play if there was a 1 card, or if I had some of these X tokens that allow me to plus my value up, I could play some of those to plus the value. So it is really excellent, this sponsors card. So the last one let's talk about is association. So I'm going to move this one out here, and let's talk about the association action. All right, the association action. All right, this is telling us we can perform one association task. These are the tasks that are available to you in the beginning when you're on this non-upgraded side with a maximum value of X. So whatever this was in, if it was in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that would tell you what you can play is a 1. There's nothing on here you can play. Ignore this section, right? So in the 2, you can go here, and again, this little kind of graduation, you know, cap kind of looking thing, that gives you 2 reputation. Okay, going here, these little symbols will give you partners, zoos, and here you can get universities, which will get you research or research and reputation bump, or this allows you to hold 5 cards in your hand at the end of the break. Otherwise, you have to discard down to 3. So the important thing to note, plus it gets you 1 reputation bump. This one is performing an association action that is a conservation project. Now, those projects, they will be down here. You'll have a base number of projects. Depending on how many players you're playing with, it will go all the way out to 4 of them. Those will be the base, the starter projects that show up in the game. And it's important to see what those are. If you're playing by the rules as they're written, you don't see those until after you've selected your cards. You're going to start with 8 cards in your hand, and you're going to discard down to 4. And at that point, you'll get to see what your special objective is, and you'll get to see what the starting projects are. I like that. I think that's a really good way to do this, because that way, if the cards dealt to you are maybe great for one of the projects that's out there, you don't know that yet. And you may choose to discard something that you wouldn't have otherwise. And while that can be, let's just call it annoying, it is also, it takes a little bit of, it adds a little bit more of the luck back into the game, so that somebody who's dealt just the right cards, there's another layer of chance that could potentially eliminate your ability to, you know, get a leg up on somebody. All right, so again, you'll go here when you do that, and you'll take one of those, one of the cubes that's on one of these. Let's say you took this one. This would get you a conservation point right now immediately, plus anytime you break and you do income, you would get a conservation point. So that's important, because that's one of the ways that you win the game. So you'd take this off and you'd place it on top of one of those conservation projects. So let's take a look at one of those real quick. Okay, so let's use this one for example. Let's say it started here and you took this, you took off, you know, this one here, and you said, all right, I have 4 Africa icons in my zoo. What that means is you've got this icon. You may have it here with a partner zoo, or you might have it on some of the animals. For example, if we look at, for instance, this mountain tapir, this has an Americas icon on it. It also has a herbivore icon. Again, herbivores, birds, that's Europe, you know, so there's the African bush elephant. It gives you 2 icons. So let's say you had this and this animal in your zoo, right? You had the African bush elephant in your zoo, and let's say you also had a leopard just for fun, okay? All right, so let's say you had these 2 animals in your zoo, and you have the partner zoo. So when you play here using that association action card in the 5 position, you're going to play there, you would count up the number of Africa icons that you've got in your zoo. In this case, you'd have 1, 2, 3, and if you had this Africa partner zoo, 4. That would allow you to play that piece there. So covering this up would mean that you get 3 conservation points, but it also means no one else can take that. Anybody else who plays onto this Africa project would have to play the 5 or the 2. Okay, so there's a little bit of strategy of taking something early, the 2, making somebody have to work harder and longer to be able to get to the 4 and the 5, or being able to take the 5 and cutting people out of getting a lot of conservation project points. So there is some strategy there. It's pretty great. There's a little bit of blocking that you can do. That's about the extent of the player interaction, unless you utilize some of the constriction and venom tokens and things like that. That's not one that we really play with when I play. I don't really love it so much. I guess this game, for whatever reason, does not seem like it's that much of a take that sort of game. And I love that, actually. I'm usually really big on take that. I'm really big on player interaction and being able to fight other players in a game or block them or do other things. And this is about the extent of where you do that, or taking some of the cards that are out there that somebody may want, knowing that they need another Europe icon or another Africa icon to be able to do that, and you want to take it from them. You know, there's a little bit of hate drafting you can do, but even then, there's not a lot. Okay, so, but that's the gist of what all of these cards do. Let's take a look at the board and kind of talk about the interaction there. And then let's get into some of the things I like and don't like about the game, I guess. And then we'll talk a little bit about the solo mode there at the end. Okay, all right, so here is the board. Can't quite get the entire thing in, but that's okay. So let's take a look at the different pieces or different parts of the board real quick, and I'll try to slide it around as we go. So this track here that looks like tickets on the outside, kind of this beige color that goes all the way around there, that's the appeal track. So when you play animals, for instance, let's take a look at, at this leopard, for example. It gives you 1 conservation point, but it gives you 7 appeal. So you have a marker here that would move up 7 spaces from wherever you are. You move that up, and then you'll do the actions that are here. Now it's important to say that this is saying that you have to have the partner zoo. These are the requirements that will go in on the left side there. So in that case, you would have to have the partner zoo from Africa in order to be able to play the leopard card into your zoo. This will give you a predator icon. It requires a size 3 enclosure that is next to mountains. So if you recall, and we go back and take a look at here in our zoo, we'd have to have a size 3 enclosure that's touching a mountain space. If you're using this one, you start with that right here. It just has to be touching one, not overlapping, but touching one. And as you do that, so pretty great. Didn't mention it before, but as you build buildings, you'll notice you've got these yellow instant bonuses that you get. These are requirements here that you have to have in order to fill those 2 spaces. You have to have the building 2 upgrade. But as you get into these different spaces and you cover these things up, you can cover up rocks and water if you want to. It's not required. If you cover up the entire zoo, not including the rocks and water, you do get 7 appeal. And it's like, well, when you're done, who cares if you've covered it up? There's a reason for that. There's things that you can do at the very end of the game that could be beneficial to you. So either way, kind of going back to this card. Again, that gets you 7 appeal. Now, if you notice here, there's a green track here, this inside green track that runs all the way around the board here. That is the conservation track. So you'll have another token that runs along here. And as you get to this space here, this 2, you're going to have to choose. And let me make sure this is in. You're going to have to choose between upgrading a card or adding one of those association workers. Remember, we had that little worker that we used, just a minute ago. You start with 1, but you'll also have 3 more, and they'll be in these spaces here. As you uncover things, you get the bonus that's underneath them. So, or as you cover something up. In this case, it's as you pull them off. In this case, it's as you pop them up. So what we'll do here is let's put this one there. You have a choice. You can either upgrade a card in your row here, or you can get an extra worker. Here, there's some tokens that you can mix and match. You can shuffle and put those out. You have a choice. The first person to get to the 5 spot gets to choose between this one, 5 coins, or this one. The 8 spot, this one, 5 coins, or that one. At the 10, when you get here, you have to choose. You're dealt 2 hidden objective cards. They get you as many as 4 conservation project points at the end, but you're dealt 2 in the beginning. At this point, you have to discard 1 and choose the one that you're going after. Okay, so it gives you a little bit of choice throughout. You can decide on your strategy. By the time you get there, you should have decided already what you're going to do. Now, so you're going to go up this conservation point track. And again, that's here. Some animals will give you that. Some animals will give you aminals. Some animals will give you reputation points as well. So as you're out here, I guess something I'll go ahead and just deal some cards out here so that we can kind of pretend that that's where they are. And here, let's go ahead and put one of those in there just to kind of prove a point there. Okay. All right. So you've got the card stack here, which is usually pretty enormous because there's a ton of cards in this game. All right. So you have all of these out. The other side of this board actually just has them rotated this way. I would say that's the solo side of the board just because it's easier to have it all facing you. This is a good one to have when you've got multiple people playing. All right. So if you notice here in this kind of blue, teal, or turquoise, teal sort of space, this is reputation space 1. So when you start out here, you'll be able to move up 1, 2, or however many places into this space. So in 2 and 3, 2 and 3 allow you to have reputation access to 1 and 2. 4, 5, and 6 allow you to have a reputation track access to 1, 2, and 3. And 7, 8, 9. You notice here when you get to 5, you get to flip over another card. When you get to 8, you get to add another worker. Here you get to draw a card from the deck or within your reputation range. Here you get a conservation point. Here you get one of those X tokens. But notice these are red. And what I talked about before, that means you have to have upgraded the card's action. And it tells you that right there. So again, I feel like they've done iconography very well. They've chosen colors really well. They've done a lot of things extremely well in this game. This is the break track that I was talking about. So if you're playing with 4 players, that coffee cup starts way down here, right? And if you're starting with 3, it starts here, 2, etc. there. And this is how many spaces it has to move. Like I said, when you do cards, it's a break 2. So you move that. When you get to this point, hey, now you've started the break. The person who started it, who triggered it, gets the X token. Again, those X tokens allow you to plus up your card action by 1 more space. You can have a maximum of 5, and you can use all of them in 1 single turn if you want to. Which, yes, you can say, I want to use the animals action for, and I'm going to plus that thing up. Well, I don't know that that's a good plan because it has nothing to do with this other than unless you're in a 3. But if you're in a 5 and you're doing association or you're doing sponsors, well, then it becomes pretty significant. One thing I didn't talk about when I was talking about the association action and I had the association board out is this section over here. Again, notice it's kind of a pink. So the red, the background here saying you have to have the association action upgraded in order to do it. This is 1 time per association, right, card play. Not per action you get to do, but per card that you play. So when you play it, there's some cards that let you play an action twice. You get to do that. So, but I say that saying, okay, this doesn't cost you anything. So you do one of these other 4 actions and you can do this for free. And this is just saying, hey, okay, I'm going to take one of my free cubes. I'm going to pay whatever the lowest value is here. Let's say it's the first one, it's 2. I'm going to pay 2 coins to go up 1 on this conservation track. Or let's say there's a bunch out there. I'm going to pay 7 or 10. Or if all of these are filled, I'm going to pay 12. And anybody can pay 12. And there's an infinite number of those. You still only go up 1. For all of these, you go up 1, but it gets more expensive as you go. That's important when we get to the solo mode. I'll get back to that in a minute. So, all right. So that is one other thing on association. Let's say I went to this 5 spot and I wanted to go do that again later before we went to break, okay? When we break, we pull all these off, all of these workers off. But let's say I did this action already. If I want to go to that same space, I have to play 2. All right, that's what this is telling me. I have to play 2 workers in order to do that. If I want to go to this place and do it again and do the university again, I've got to pay 2. Now, when one of these is taken off, it's gone until there's break again. Another reason why you may want to force the break. Not only is it for money, but it's also so you can refill everything on this board. Partner zoos and those university pieces. That is shown here in this step. So let me get back to this with the break. So you do that, you get your X. Then you discard down to 3 unless you have that university research partnership or icon there, or a piece that you've taken in this association level 4 that allows you to have 5 cards at the break. This removes any ×2s or constriction or venom tokens from the board if you're playing with those. This refills this and pulls all of your workers back into your tableau. This one discards these 2 cards, and then everything slides down and you refill. And here's where you do income. You do income from what you have on your player mat. If you've got anything here in this space, anything from one of your sponsors that may be paying you something, any other special animals or other things, or from the kiosks. So the kiosks pay you if you have, so I'm pointing up to that. So those kiosks pay you if you have an attached or a touching occupied enclosure. Okay, so those kiosks will pay. They pay 1 extra coin per. So in the end, this black space out here on the edge that has the tokens and the numbers for how many coins you get, if your piece is here on, say, 17 for appeal, that's going to say you get, at the end of the round, you get 16 coins. If it's on 38, you get 22. Okay, so that is what that's saying. And then you can get extra for, again, things like kiosks. All right. Okay, so that's roughly how you play the game. You pick an action, you do the things for that action. You're trying to fill up your board. You're trying to put things into your tableau. You're trying to put deer and tapirs and elephants and leopards. You're trying to fill your zoo. And you're trying to complete conservation projects, because the end game is triggered when your piece, your token that's in this appeal track moving around the outside, passes your token that's moving on the inside track here, the conservation point track. So when those two cross, you're going to trigger the end game. You're going to finish out the round, and you're going to play one more. Okay, so everybody's going to get an additional turn, at least, probably 2. But nonetheless, you're going to do that. At the end of that, you add up, and you say, okay, who's the furthest away? So you look at where your conservation marker is. Here, let's say your appeal marker is there. Okay, so when I look at this, what I would say is my conservation is here, so this is the lowest appeal number that shows up, and that'd be 70. Look here, I'm on 78, so that my score would be 8. Okay, let's say I moved here all the way to the other end, way over here. Okay, so that says 55 and 78, or 86, or whatever it is, right? So you look at that and you just do some math and figure out, hey, this is where I'm at. A little bit of arithmetic, not too bad. Okay, so again, that is how the game is played. It is a whole heap ton of fun. So now let's talk about a little bit about the solo, and then go into components and replayability and things like that. All right, so in the solo game, you play, and this is one of the reasons I think this game is one of the best solo games out there. It is definitely a little bit of multiplayer solitaire anyway, but part of the reason I think it's great is because you don't have a lot of upkeep with some other player you're playing against. You have a very little bit to do. You put another player's cubes out there, another token, a color of them, you put them along this track here. After you take a turn, you slide it over. You take a turn, you take a turn, you take a turn, and you just continually, after you've taken a turn, you do this. When you hit the bottom, you break. You run through the actions for the break. You take the top one off of whatever it was you did, that first round. You'll take that top cube, and you will go back to the association track, and you'll place it in the topmost uncovered donation space. Okay, and you keep doing that all the way to the bottom. And what you're trying to do, you're going to start at 5. You want to get as far around as you can. And you're basically, you're just playing yourself. Now, one of those things that people will look at is if you don't like playing with those constriction tokens and those venom tokens and things like that, The animals that use those, they give you an excellent option down at the very bottom for this solo mode version. It tells you to do a different animal activity for that animal. Like there's some that do digging, which allows you to choose up to 2 times, like digging 2 allows you to say, okay, I'm going to discard a couple of cards off of this and replace as you go. I'm going to replace and see what I'm going to do, and then okay, you're done. You can filter some stuff through in this center section. So that's what this tapir does. It may say, you know, you've got resistance, or you've got something else. There may be other actions at the bottom. Either way, that's what you do, and that's how we play. When we don't play with those, we play with we play with those bottom solo mode rules, and that's one of the recommendations in the rule book that you do if you don't want to play that way. Okay, but that's it. That action right there, that's the extent of what's different about the solo mode. You play it as a 2-player game. After that, that's pretty much it. You're done. It is not hard. It is incredibly easy. There's a couple of things up here on the association track, but otherwise, it's great. It is like playing the regular game because you're doing the regular stuff. You don't have an opponent that's taking things from you and maybe actively working against you. But that's okay. It's still the same game. This is one of the things I love about it, though. You can play this game in solo, and it teaches you the game. So that if you wanted to play it 2 or 3 times before you taught your game group, you could. Something I'd recommend. So that's the solo mode. It is that simple, that easy to explain. I love it. All right. Now let's talk about the components. Okay, so looking at the different components that are in the game, these little bins come with the game. They're great. You stick them on the bottom. You put the board up on top of those, and you stack everything around it. It's great. I like it. The only thing I would complain about as far as these go, I do wish that they were just a little bit different in that, and there's a couple minor complaints. The lids don't hug it as much as I would like them to. I think they have little notches here on the side, and they work okay, but there's a couple that just kind of pop off real easily, and that's fine. But they do store everything. I do kind of wish that they had made it so you could put one on one side of the table, one on the other, and it had everything that everybody needed. What ends up happening is everybody keeps a little bit of a bank over by them, that kind of thing. It's just like every other game. It's okay. They're really more useful as storage and less as table use, although they're fine for that. It's just not the best. The cardboard for these it's not Eagle Griffin Games, you know, Vital Lacerda game thickness and everything else, but it's good quality. They're not junky or anything. Even the player boards, which they're paper, you know, front, side, and back, right? But they're a heavier cardstock. They're not heavy, right? They're super easy to bend and all that. That's okay. They're similar to what Terraforming Mars has got, and I think that's fine. You know, could you benefit from some sort of a dual player board? Yeah, I guess, you know, for putting these down so they don't move around. You know, they have partner zoos and you know, and maybe these university pieces, and the same thing here. You could put you could do that, but it's already a $70 game. I mean, how much are you adding to it? Are you adding to the gameplay or anything else? I mean, it's not that big a deal. Honestly, the only time you're really going to be like, oh no, where was that? Is if you bumped everything and you couldn't remember if you took one of the cubes off of these income pieces and if you took that or not. Hopefully somebody's going to remember for you, but I don't think it's that big a deal. The wooden pieces they're wooden pieces. They're great. No real problems there. You know, it's not just a standard meeple. It's just a bust of a person, but it's fine. These octagonal pieces that are your scoring track pieces and stuff like that, they're okay. I mean, they stand up, they work. It's not a problem. They're not exceptional, but there's nothing wrong with them. I mean, any complaints I have here would be nitpicky, really. They wouldn't be that much. So, yeah, components are fine. The art on the cards is awesome. I am a big fan, and I say that in that not a lot of people love actual photography. It is good animal photography. It is really great. All those cards, everything is really well done. Now, some people don't like the ones that have people on them, or the base, or the action cards, because they've got kind of they're stock photography. They've got kind of a Photoshop filter on them. I don't mind it. I think it's fine. It doesn't bother me at all because it's easy to read. The icons are good. It works. It's corporate, but it's fine. It really doesn't. And who knows? Maybe that's just me. But yeah. But otherwise, I think the animal art though is wonderful. There are some really cool animals like this Cenarius vulture here. This is beautiful. This is really awesome. The barn owl is great photography. It really is. I really enjoy it a lot. Again, the graphic design I think is great with the different icons that they give you, and just the different everything's there. Everything is right where you need it. The costs to play the animal, it's easy to read. It's easy to look at. It's easy to understand. They've just done a darn good job. I like it. So yeah, no complaints there. Replayability, it's there. There are a ton of cards. I mean, you've got a stack and a stack, another stack, another one. I mean, these are just how I kind of pile them up there. Now, for sure, I've sleeved mine, so it makes it even better, right? Because they, twice as thick or twice as tall. But that's a lot of cards. There are a ton of cards in this game. So there's a lot of variability there. There's a lot of sponsors. There's a lot of animals. There's a lot of little things that you can do. There's different ways to perform things. There's a lot of different conservation project options, not just the ones that come out. There's some that come out in that middle section that you can play a 5 and pull that out and play it. And it's great. They even work a little bit different than some of the others too. It's just, there's a lot of variety in this. Now, the player mats, okay? Flip this one over. This is map 6. It works a little different. This is Research Institute. And it says, active if connected. Each time you play an animal card, ignore a condition of your choice. So if you're connecting this to other things, then there you go. You have to start from the outside. There you go. Each time you play an animal card, ignore one condition of your choice. That's powerful. That's pretty great. If you want to know how these work, it's in the rule book. It's in that glossary. It tells you how this mat works, what's special about it, what the special rules are, where you have to start, that kind of thing. What's different about it. Even these icons over here on the income, the special project ones, on the income and instant gain, and on the instant gain, those are different. That changes the game entirely when you play with one of these. Lately, I've been playing with different ones of these as I'm playing with new players who play on map A because it's a good beginner. So that's just one way to make the game just a little bit more difficult and change up things a little bit. It's pretty great. It is really, really awesome. I like the game a lot. So replayability is 100% there. Not only because of card variety, but there's ways to change the skill for players who play a lot and players who don't play a lot. I think that's a hallmark of a great game. Just me personally. So I definitely would put this in the great game category. I know it has rocketed up the charts on BGG to I think number 7 or 6 or whatever it's at today. It has really flown through, but it's deserving. And that's not really a cult of the news sort of thing talking. It really is deserving. Has it blown past some games that I like more? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I like Anachrony more. But that doesn't mean this isn't a great game. That's my opinion. I can see how more people get into this. To me, this is a much more advanced game than, say, a Wingspan, but I think it has similar appeal because of the topic. If you can get people past I spent 35, 40 minutes teaching this to you right now, right? Telling you how all this stuff works. If you can get people past that with those starter sheets, which I think you can, I think you've really got a chance to make this potentially, even though it's got a lot going on, you can make this that next step after Wingspan in your group. That's just me. That's what I would do. I think it's great. It's not as complicated as a Lacerda game. That's okay. But it is fun, like a Lacerda game. All right, this has been the Board of Damocles. I really appreciate you watching. If you liked it, subscribe, hit that bell icon so you get notified. I do this for fun. It's a good time, right? But still, hey, there you go. If you've got comments, leave them down there below. And, you know, I'll read those. I respond to things. A lot of what I do on my channel is not a lot of reviews and things. I do some unboxings, and I do a lot of, I do some inserts. I get a little nerdy on that. So if I'm doing that, you know, hey, I'll show you how to build it and give you a review on those. So, but that's it. So, hey, I'm Jim Buchanan. This has been the Board of Damocles. I really appreciate you watching. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed it.